Now, Gabriel Ochoa has a real redemption story. He joined a gang by the time he was 12 years old in Oklahoma City, and then by 17, he was in the same cell block as those on death row. Now, 32 years later, after renouncing his gang and being locked away in our state's darkest places, he says a light broke through.
And that's why I want to be here today, to let everybody know that are in those dark pits, that are in those situations, that are caught up in the gangs up to here, that are tired of it, that's been living that life for so long. And not even the gang. If you're just living the life of violence and drugs and you're just tired of it, this is my story of hope right here, that I hope I'll be able to reach to everybody, that God can work in your life.
Tuesday marked 11 days since Gabriel Ochoa was released from prison, but it's been even longer since he decided to turn his life around. He shared with me pictures and letters from his more than 30 years behind bars. In 1991, Gabriel was arrested for trying to kill someone from a rival gang. He was 16 years old.
So I kept getting closer and closer, and the more closer I got, I was just shooting, and I shot him several times, and I thought I killed him, and I was like, man, what did I just do? But thank God he survived, and thank God he survived.
Gabriel was transported to several detention centers all over the state, and he continued being a part of gangs while incarcerated. He went from high security to medium security and even served time in the same block as death row.
We all ended up at the maximum in McAllister, OSP. So my first trip there, we go to H block, and that's the end of the road. That's where death row is. Death row is right down there, and that's the end of the road. So you get into all the troubles and fights and stabbings, that's where they send you.
He told me no matter how secure a prison is, you can never let your guard down.
And I would see all the bars and how everything's so secure, and I would always think, oh, man, we're okay. There ain't nobody can do nothing to us here. You know, we're safe. Boy, was I wrong. And it didn't take long before I got to see my first stabbing. I knew we're going to have to be on our toes down here, because regardless of all the bars, all the security and everything, I knew this place was violent, and it was wicked.
When Gabriel was at his lowest point, he says he finally broke and wanted to change.
Right down from death row for 6 years straight. That period of time was my darkest. I would say those were my darkest years. Was those years down there on the H block, on the High Max, because we was involved in so much stuff and so much violence and drugs that I was in a pit of darkness, and at that time there was no hope. There was times I felt hopelessness, I felt despair, but the only thing that kept me going was the drugs. The drugs. I needed the drugs to numb everything, and I thought it was my escape, but really it was my trap.
Then in 2013, Gabriel renounced his gang and began living sober.
There was a time where I found myself in lockup at Lawton, and I was feeling that despair, I was feeling that hopelessness, I was feeling all that, to where that was like the first time in my life that I just got down in my cell and just prayed and just let it all out. All my feelings, I cried so hard. I never cried like that in a long time, and I just let it all out and asked God, please help me. You find me your way. You know the way. You can help me get out of this. I was so fed up with the gangs and everything.
Now, after renouncing his gang, he told me there were consequences he had to face, ones that he knew could cost him his life. I'll tell you more of what Gabriel had to overcome and how his sentence was reversed, coming up on Fox 23 News at 6. Live in studio, covering news that matters, Devin Lyon, Fox 23 News.